The olive oil illusion. Olive oil is marketed as liquid gold. Heart-healthy fats, anti-inflammatory benefits, powerful antioxidants, Mediterranean longevity in a bottle. Doctors recommend it. Nutritionists praise it. Supermarkets dedicate entire aisles to it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Not every bottle labeled extra virgin deserves that title. In Australia, multiple independent tests over the past decade have shown that a significant portion of imported olive oils fail to meet extra virgin standards when chemically and sensorially tested. Some are oxidized. Some are poorly stored. Some are blended from multiple low-grade sources. And some barely qualify under the legal threshold. That doesn't mean every supermarket bottle is fake, but it does mean the label alone is not protection. Extra virgin is a chemical and sensory classification. It requires low free fatty acid levels, low peroxide values, no sensory defects, and proper handling from harvest to bottle. Once oil oxidizes, sits in clear plastic, or spends months under bright retail lighting, those quality markers degrade rapidly. Today, we're breaking this down professionally and clearly. I'll walk you through 7 widely available olive oil brands that have raised quality concerns through independent testing, storage practices, or inconsistent sourcing. Then we'll finish with Australian producers that consistently meet higher standards. Every section is balanced, detailed, and based on what matters: chemistry, freshness, and transparency. Let's begin. Number 7. Woolworths. House brand extra virgin supermarket private labels are designed for price competitiveness. Woolworths house brand olive oil often blends oils from multiple countries, including Spain, Greece, and Tunisia. Blending itself isn't illegal or inherently bad. However, when sourcing rotates based on global bulk pricing, batch consistency becomes unpredictable. Independent Australian testing over the years has found that some supermarket private labels occasionally sit close to the upper limits of free fatty acid thresholds for extra virgin classification. Free fatty acids increase when olives are damaged, poorly stored, or processed too slowly after harvest. While still technically within standards, oils near the upper limit have shorter shelf life and degrade faster. Another concern is packaging. Many house brands use clear plastic bottles. Olive oil is highly sensitive to light. Ultraviolet exposure accelerates oxidation, reducing polyphenol content and producing rancid flavors over time. When bottles sit under bright fluorescent lighting for months, degradation is almost guaranteed before the consumer opens them. Taste variability is often noticeable. Some batches are mild and acceptable. Others can taste flat, oily, or slightly stale. That inconsistency is the red flag. True extra virgin from controlled estates delivers reliable flavor year after year. If you choose supermarket private label, look for harvest dates, dark glass, and Australian origin. Without those markers, you're likely buying bulk-sourced oil optimized for price, not freshness. Number 6. Coles brand extra virgin Coles. House brand follows a similar sourcing model. Multi-origin European blends. Again, blending isn't automatically problematic, but transparency matters. When labels simply state packed from imported oils, you have no insight into harvest timing or storage history. Price is another indicator. Producing high-quality extra virgin olive oil is expensive. Harvesting, rapid cold extraction, laboratory testing, dark glass bottling, and temperature-controlled storage all cost money. When oil retails under $10 per liter, something in that chain is being economized. One common myth is the fridge test, where people refrigerate olive oil to see if it solidifies. This is unreliable and not a scientific measure of purity. However, sensory evaluation remains important. True extra virgin should have fruitiness, bitterness, and peppery pungency. When oil tastes bland and greasy with no throat tickle, polyphenol levels are likely low. Like Woolworths, Coles frequently uses light-exposed packaging. Over time, this destroys antioxidants. By the time many consumers finish the bottle, the oil may be oxidized. Oxidized oil loses health value and can develop stale or crayon-like aromas. The issue here is not outright fraud. It's shelf life, packaging, and commodity blending. You're paying for availability and price, not peak freshness. Number 5. Filippo Berio. Filippo Berio is one of the most recognizable international olive oil brands in Australian supermarkets. The packaging is traditional, often in dark glass, which is positive. However, historically, the brand has faced testing controversies in different markets regarding whether certain batches fully met extra virgin standards. Independent testing in various countries over the years has occasionally found elevated markers that suggest oxidation or borderline classification. It's important to clarify, these findings vary by batch and region, but recurring scrutiny indicates inconsistency. Flavor profile is typically mild and neutral. While some consumers prefer a softer oil, extra virgin by definition should display clear fruitiness and peppery polyphenol presence. When oil lacks complexity, it may be made from older olives, filtered heavily, or sourced from high-volume industrial production. Filippo Berio often sources from multiple Mediterranean countries. While this allows supply stability, it reduces traceability. Without a harvest date clearly displayed, consumers cannot judge freshness. Olive oil ideally should be consumed within 12 to 18 months of harvest. Brand familiarity does not equal quality assurance. With imported oils, the time from harvest to Australian shelves can exceed a year, significantly reducing polyphenol content. Number 4. Cola Vita Extra Virgin. Cola Vita is positioned as a heritage Italian brand, widely available across Australian supermarkets, and often priced in the mid to premium range. The branding leans heavily on tradition, Mediterranean imagery, and family history. But when we step away from marketing and look strictly at oil chemistry and supply chain structure, the questions begin. Cola Vita oils are commonly labeled as blends of oils from multiple countries. Blending is legal and sometimes necessary for supply consistency, but it reduces traceability. When olives are sourced from different regions and harvest cycles, quality control becomes more complex. The longer the supply chain, the more opportunities for oxidation and degradation. One recurring issue with imported olive oils is time. Olive oil is at its best within months of harvest. When oil is harvested overseas, transported in bulk containers, bottled later, and then shipped again to Australia, the freshness clock keeps ticking. Without a clearly displayed harvest date, consumers cannot determine how old the oil truly is. A best before date is not the same as a harvest date. Packaging is another concern. Cola Vita frequently appears in clear glass bottles in Australian retail settings. Light exposure significantly accelerates oxidation. Even if the oil left production meeting extra virgin standards, prolonged exposure to supermarket lighting can reduce polyphenol content and introduce stale or flat flavors. Sensory quality is often described as mild and neutral. While some consumers prefer less intense oils, authentic, high-quality extra virgin olive oil should display fruitiness, bitterness, and a peppery finish, indicating healthy polyphenols. When that pungency is missing, the oil may be older, filtered heavily, or made from lower polyphenol olives. Cola Vita is not automatically fraudulent. But in a category where freshness defines health value, lack of harvest transparency and clear packaging reduce confidence in long-term quality. Number 3. Aldi Romano Extra Virgin. Aldi offers Romano Extra Virgin olive oil as a budget-friendly option. The pricing is attractive, often among the lowest in the extra virgin category. However, producing genuine, high-quality extra virgin olive oil at very low retail pricing is difficult when factoring in farming, pressing, bottling, testing, shipping, and retail margins. Independent Australian consumer testing in past years has occasionally found that some lower-cost imported oils failed sensory standards for extra virgin classification. Common defects include rancidity, mustiness, or fustiness. These defects typically arise from delayed processing after harvest or improper storage conditions before pressing. Rancidity occurs when oil oxidizes. Fustiness develops when olives ferment before pressing. Either defect disqualifies oil from extra virgin classification under international standards. Even when oils remain within chemical limits, sensory defects reduce quality and health value. Romano oils are usually labeled as imported blends from European origins. Again, blending is not illegal. But lack of estate-level traceability combined with clear plastic packaging increases risk of light-induced degradation. Clear plastic bottles provide minimal protection against ultraviolet light, which breaks down antioxidants rapidly. Consumers often notice inconsistency. One bottle may taste acceptable. Another may taste flat or stale. That inconsistency reflects bulk commodity sourcing rather than estate-controlled production. Budget oils are not necessarily dangerous. But when freshness and antioxidant content are priorities, low price combined with vague sourcing becomes a warning sign. Number 2. Pompeian Extra Virgin. Pompeian is a large international brand present in both the United States and Australia. Over the years, consumer testing in the US has occasionally questioned whether specific batches met full extra virgin standards under chemical and sensory analysis. The larger issue again is not necessarily adulteration, but quality variation in packaging. Pompeian products frequently appear in clear plastic bottles in Australian supermarkets. This is highly problematic for olive oil stability. Olive oil is extremely sensitive to light. Prolonged exposure degrades chlorophyll, carotenoids, and polyphenols, accelerating rancidity. Chemical markers such as peroxide value and UV absorbance increase as oil oxidizes. When oil spends months under bright retail lighting, even genuine extra virgin oil may approach borderline classification by the time it reaches the consumer. Taste reports often describe Pompeian oils as mild and lacking peppery throat sensation. High-quality extra virgin olive oil should contain phenolic compounds that create a slight throat catch. Absence of this sensation does not prove fraud, but it may indicate lower antioxidant concentration or aging. Without harvest date transparency, it is impossible for the consumer to evaluate true freshness. In olive oil, time is everything. Once antioxidants degrade, the oil loses both flavor complexity and many of its touted health benefits. Number 1. The core problem. Commodity imported blends. The number one issue in Australian supermarket olive oil is not a single brand, it is the commodity model. Multi-country blending, long transport chains, no harvest date, clear packaging, months of shelf exposure. Extra virgin olive oil is a fresh agricultural product. It is not shelf-stable in the way highly refined seed oils are. Heat, light, and oxygen degrade it continuously. By the time bulk imported oil is harvested overseas, shipped in containers, bottled, distributed, and displayed, much of its polyphenol content may already be reduced. Polyphenols are responsible for olive oil's anti-inflammatory reputation. They are sensitive compounds. Once degraded, the oil becomes mostly monounsaturated fat without the same antioxidant benefit. Fraud does occur globally in parts of the olive oil industry. However, in Australia, the more common problem is age, oxidation, and borderline classification, rather than widespread vegetable oil substitution. Consumers often assume extra virgin guarantees premium quality. In reality, it guarantees only that at the time of testing, the oil met certain thresholds. It does not guarantee freshness at point of sale. Australian producers with strong quality control, Cobram Estate. Cobram Estate controls its own groves in Victoria and manages production from harvest to bottling. Harvest dates are clearly marked. Bottles are dark glass to prevent light degradation. The oil consistently scores highly in international competitions and independent testing. The peppery finish reflects strong polyphenol presence. Red Island Tasmanian-grown olives processed quickly after harvest. Cold extraction and smaller scale production allow tighter quality control. Dark glass packaging and transparent dating improve consumer confidence. The oil tends to have bright, grassy notes and strong pungency. Boundary Bend, one of Australia's largest estate producers with vertically integrated operations. Rapid harvest to press time preserves antioxidants. Widely available while maintaining consistent quality standards. Olive oil can absolutely be one of the healthiest fats you consume, but only when it is fresh, properly stored, and genuinely extra virgin at the time you use it. The warning signs are simple: no harvest date, clear plastic or clear glass bottles, multi-country blending with no estate traceability, flat taste with no peppery finish. The safest approach in Australia is to prioritize local estate producers with transparent sourcing and recent harvest dates. Your olive oil should smell fresh and grassy. It should taste slightly bitter and leave a gentle peppery sensation in your throat. That sensation is not a flaw, it is a marker of antioxidant presence. Extra virgin olive oil is liquid gold only when treated like a fresh product, not a commodity. Choose accordingly.